Where there is a will, there is a lawsuit. Welcome, friends and future colleagues, to a new and reinvented Law Guess. You have come to the most interesting legal platform for talk shows and more. We give you candid talks with people who you look up to. I'm your host for today, Muskan Naran. I am a second year law student from DY Patil University, and we have with us today Advocate Bhumesh Verma, sir. Sir is an international corporate lawyer. He completed his law from DU and went on to England to pursue a course in international law and legal studies. He founded Corpcom Legal 4 years ago, and I guess you know him as a very famous author of books on guide on drafting commercial contracts, mergers and acquisitions, etc. His books are something that I know all lawyers, up and coming lawyers, and law students look up to and swear by. And I recommend you check the book in the description of the video. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Likewise, it's a pleasure for me as well.
Thank you, sir. So actually, I got to know this name of sir, and I've been hearing his name as I've been doing a lot of internships. Every single person who wants to talk about contract drafting, who is like pursuing that or he's trying his hand at that, I have seen them talk about your books. It has always been because as you're really famous on LinkedIn, people get to know your name from that, and when they buy your book, there are always praises about that. So, sir, I think you've done a great job by publishing such a great book.
Thank you so much for your appreciation and kind words.
So, sir, I usually start with a question. Why did you decide to choose law?
Well, I was always inquisitive about business and commerce and economy
Mhm.
and the legal and compliances part of it. So that enhanced my interest in pursuing law, I would say wholeheartedly. Otherwise, I had, having been a commerce student, I had studied a bit of law, like contracts and partnerships, accounting, and so on and so forth. So I had a little bit of knowledge about legal provisions pertaining to Companies Act,
Right.
Contract Act, Partnership Act, and so on. And I was encouraged to study more. So that's how I decided to pursue law, maybe.
Okay.
But having said that, 30 years ago, the trend was that someone who was not good at anything would pursue law. So maybe that,
Right.
that could have been another reason.
Okay. Right. So, sir, is there anything which attracted you to law, particularly because everybody, when they go into law school, they are either very excited about law or not at all excited. So, was there anything that really interested you about law, or maybe like your peers as you're from DU?
Well, there were two, three lines of thinking about people who would join law. About 30 years back in 1991, I joined law college.
Mhm.
First line was people who were pursuing our national hobby, that is UPSC.
Right.
So they wanted to have a hostel in Delhi.
Okay.
Outstation students who wanted a hostel in Delhi, they would pursue law.
Okay.
Second line was people whose family was in legal advisory business for generations,
Right.
and they were destined to become lawyers, senior advocates, even judges.
For
I mean,
sure.
so they would definitely pursue law to get the benefit of their lineage. I
Mhm.
mean, in terms of the legacy of business, no ulterior motives, but the legacy of business that the family would
Mhm.
possess to, further the legacy. They would pursue law, and there were some, I would say, eccentrics as well. Maybe you have one example before you today,
Right.
who were interested in pursuing law,
Mhm.
coming out of nowhere.
Right.
I had no one in my family as a lawyer.
Mhm.
Until date, everyone feels that one lawyer in family is enough.
Right. They say one doctor, one lawyer, one policeman. That is needed. Exactly, sir. I am a
Yes.
first generation. I'm going to be a first generation lawyer too. And I think pressure it comes as looking at law school, seeing that your peers might have files just lying around in their houses very easily, and you have to actually go out, do internships, form connections with people on your own basis. I think it's really difficult, and it requires a lot of courage to get into a field which actually gives you, which has no exposure for you right now.
राइट, स्कैम देखा है आपने?
हाँ जी, यस मैम।
रिस्क है तो.
इश्क है। सही में। सो बिल्कुल।
So
सो
people with, good risk appetite and entrepreneurial skills, they are very receptive to trying out new things.
राइट।
So I guess two of us are of that club.
Right, for sure, sir. So, how would you as a law student, if you could see yourself from a second party perspective, how would you see yourself? How were you as a law student? How did you study, and how were you more extroverted or introverted? So, how were you really as a law student?
Uh, 30 years back, law studies, particularly at Delhi University, were still like talk and chalk method. We studied even law on blackboard and chalks and lectures only. There
Right.
were very less, I would say, moot courts or practical exposure or internships. The
Okay.
students, as I said, some students had family background of lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
so they would have the benefit of sort of interning, not formally but informally, with their at their family office and so on.
Mm-hmm.
For first year lawyers or people having no context, there were not internship opportunities. There were no internship opportunities.
Right.
So only bookish studies
Mm-hmm.
most of the times.
Okay.
Only bare acts, lectures, case laws,
Hmm.
and people who were studious, they would go to library and read books.
Okay.
So
So
this
what?
was how it was going on. And I was supposedly a good student throughout my academic career, so to say, as
Right.
a student,
Mm-hmm.
and introvert because I was from a Hindi speaking belt and Hindi medium.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
not too extrovert, and even otherwise the classroom atmosphere 3 decades back was not so participative.
Okay.
Now we are getting to joyful learning and so many other lines of things
Right.
coming up. It was not the case when I used to study. It was more teacher centric. What academic fraternity felt was good for students,
Mm-hmm.
that was taught. It was not from a student's perspective
Hmm. Okay.
or employability perspective.
Okay. Okay. Right. So I see a huge contrast right now. What is happening in my college? I've seen that there are many people who have become really competitive when it comes to actually looking out for jobs. They're planning for even ahead of 5 years what they're going to do. I had a conversation just now with a person, and he was telling me, he being I think just 19 years old, he was telling me that if what he'll do once he passes out from college, 15 years he has planned out of college. So I was really I was really impressed, and I was really intimidated by it. Like, how can you not enjoy these 5 years and not just actually be a law student and authentically work hard for whatever you want to do and just plan ahead for like 15 more years? I think a lot of people have this.
This is the problem, Muskan, with today's generation. We are either scared of the future planning, too much planning,
Right.
or we are carrying the legacy of the past. We don't live
Right.
in the present and enjoy the present till about January 2020 or even February 2020.
Hmm.
Who knew
Right.
what would happen, right?
Right.
And how have we spent this entire year
Right.
behind
Exactly.
us?
Hmm.
So planning is good, yes, but sometimes you have to take things head on, tackle things as they happen.
Right.
You have to live, in the present, I would say.
Hmm.
Too much of planning or too much of scheming, I don't think it serves any purpose besides uh, killing your present.
Exactly.
You spend your present in planning for the future.
Hmm.
You do anything in excess, be it lazing or be it planning, I
Right.
don't think that's good. So you should have a judicious mix of being proactive
Hmm.
and enjoying what you're doing right now. Live in the moment.
Exactly, sir. I think wisdom, you show know of a person's wisdom if they actually know how to balance both of these things. Act not to be too lazy or not to be too, planning and all that. So I think once you try to grow up, once you grow up a little bit, you actually feel that it's better for you that you maintain that kind of balance. I so
Correct.
relating to balance, I just remember I read one of your posts, your comments on somebody else's post. You were talking about work-life balance there. So, what is your strategy of keeping that work-life balance?
Oh, well, I'm sort of an outcast in the law firm's fraternity for this very reason, because I advocate a work-life balance throughout my professional career. I have been emphasizing work-life balance for everyone, be it lawyers, senior most partners, be it support staff, be it everyone,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess there has to be a good mix of everything in your life.
Right.
Working hard, enjoying family time, relaxing, getting time to read, write, comprehend.
Mm.
So your life has so many elements to it. It's not like working 18 hours, 20 hours a day and boasting.
Right.
Another aspect to it, I mean, you must find it quite funny or maybe unreal at this stage of your life, or other law
Mm.
students may feel likewise. We need to put quality in everything that we do. We have to use our time effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we keep reading almost every day that everyone, be it the biggest of industries, be it the Prime Minister of India, be it me, or be it you,
Mm-hmm.
all of us have 24 hours in a day.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How we use this time is very important, and that makes all the distinction.
Right.
As you pass out of your college and you go and get into a law firm or corporate house or wherever you go,
Mm-hmm.
you will see there are people of different temperaments. Some people keep wasting their time, out of 15 hours they are sitting in the office, they may be wasting their time in unproductive things
Mm-hmm.
for 10 hours or 12 hours, but they are showing up, to be in office
Mm.
for a very long time.
Right. Right.
I really
Exactly.
don't know what do they achieve. On
Right.
the other hand, you could see people who are in office physically for 8 hours and 10 hours and are much more productive.
Right.
So you put quality in the time. Maybe someone uh, who does one assignment in 10 hours, the other person can do that within 2 hours with
Right.
same or even better efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who can give like 8, 10 quality hours in one day within this 24 hours period
Mm-hmm.
is much better
Right.
than someone putting in 16 hours, 20 hours in office and not being as productive.
Right. But I see, feel so that
So because again, sorry. Here you also have to, again mix hard working with smart working.
right. Exactly.
Right.
Hmm. I feel that, sir, but lawyers are the smartest people when it comes to any profession. So, being the smartest people, I don't understand what makes them not help them manage their time better, because they understand that work life balance is a thing. They understand that they can manage their own time. But what is it with lawyers that they're not, that they're busy all the time, or they are not able to make time for things that they really like to do?
Here, I met Dr. Vidyasagar of Remfry and Sagar about 25 years back.
Okay.
And he told me something that stuck to me forever, that remains etched in my memory.
Okay.
He said that if you are sitting late in your office
Mhm.
throughout your life, there can only be two reasons. Either you are overworked
Mhm.
or you are inefficient. So
Okay.
you should know how to get out of this overworked situation or
Mhm.
inefficiency.
Right.
So the solution lies within you. The ecosystem will not provide you any solutions.
Mhm.
So either you become more efficient
Mhm.
As I said, smart working, doing more productive work within the same time,
Mhm.
or you learn to delegate, have a bigger team,
Mhm.
spread out the work. Because
Right.
being overworked throughout your life is of no good to anyone,
Mhm.
not to you, not to your team, not to your family,
Right.
not to the ecosystem. Because after 7, 8, 10 hours, you are not as productive. Like being economic students, I think many of you would know the law of diminishing returns
Yes.
with additional time that you put in.
Right. Okay. So how do you maintain your work-life balance? If you say that you're an outcast, how do you become that outcast?
Well, I have tried to do a lot of things, and sometimes, even after this, I would say, philosophy,
Mhm.
people keep asking me, how do you do so many things?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
are running your own law firm, you are writing, you are posting on LinkedIn, and you are mentoring so many interns,
Mhm.
you are engaged with the Rotary, this and that, and yet you say you don't work beyond 8 hours, 10 hours in a day. So, I mean, again, it's a judicious use of
Right.
time from morning till evening. What you do in those 8, 10 productive hours
Mhm.
defines you.
Okay. And how do
So I
you plan
try
for that?
to, yes, so I mark time, this much time for this thing today, this much time for this is the priority list for today or for
Mhm.
this week,
Mhm.
and try to split my working time in all these activities.
Mhm.
And I think people also say that you are too much on LinkedIn or here and there. I say I have much more. I don't even put in as much information and knowledge. I mean, from us, our team, our interns, which we can
Yeah.
put up. We don't get time to put that much.
Right.
We
Exactly.
can post much more. We can write much more than
Exactly.
this.
I don't think being on LinkedIn is a problem. I think it's reaching out to more people, telling them your ideas and opinions. I think it's a good use of best use of social media possible. I think.
Well, I think at least this is better than nominating yourself for awards and buying those awards and getting all the recognitions. I mean, we are running movie shows like awards in legal fraternity nowadays as well. So
Right.
till date, we have never paid up for publishing any of articles or getting any award or recognition for ourselves and so on and so forth. So we try to be very modest, humble,
Hmm.
low lying, whatever you may call it,
Hmm.
but we try to market ourselves by spreading information and knowledge.
Right.
I think that is you can call, at least, if even if you were to qualify it as a marketing, at least that is an ethical marketing.
Exactly. Exactly. It gives a lot more than it takes, I think. When it comes to us law students, we have been following. There are a few names, including yours, sir, that we follow. We tell us juniors that follow them on LinkedIn because it will give you a lot of knowledge once you. Because it's the best use of social media possible. Being on Instagram, being on other Quora, even it's not that productive as being on LinkedIn is. So the amount of
Correct.
knowledge
I'll
that
tell
you're
you
sharing.
something funny here. I mean, now we don't have to market ourselves. We have so many brand ambassadors, like so many students, so many fellow professionals, so many organizations which
Right.
keep promoting our name SE without any, soliciting
Right.
on our part. They keep spreading our name on their own. They keep sharing our posts, they keep sharing our articles. Like even a couple of months back, my Singapore law firm's network partner, he sent me an article in Singapore Times which referred to our article on LinkedIn,
Wow.
which
Okay.
inputs from our article on LinkedIn. So we have so many brand ambassadors across the world. We don't need any paid publicity. This is, I think, the beauty of it, of sharing knowledge and information.
Exactly. So, when you came to LinkedIn, what do you think about when you're posting things on LinkedIn? What is your major purpose of doing that?
Well, uh, I think it is an extension of book writing I
Mhm.
have been pursuing over the last 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
For first, I would say 7 8 years or so, it was a very dormant sort of social network kind
Mhm.
of a thing for us. I had not taken it too seriously,
Right.
but 2016, I think I started using it seriously. One, getting inspired from my fellow professionals across the world who were posting valuable content and information
Mhm.
in terms of posts, and then gradually they started posting bigger articles, blogs, so
Okay.
on and
Right.
so forth.
Mhm.
This trend started about 5 years back, and when having nothing better to do, I thought, let me try it as well.
Right, exactly. And you've actually formed a big reach on LinkedIn. People have been reaching out to, I think people reach out to you, and you have written a very interesting thing in your bio which says, not here for career counseling or something on the lines of that.
What to do, at some point of time, they were, I had what, I mean, you may not believe it, but I had maybe more than 10,000 students as contacts. I mean, I was very liberal about accepting ad requests. So I would accept anyone. I mean, unless I had something very strong
Right.
against someone, which I never had. I would accept every ad request. And then, we were flooded with internship applications, career counseling, and job applications, and so on. So we are a law firm. So I used to plead with them that please let us work.
Right.
So now we have become a bit moderate about accepting these ad requests in terms of at least students. But even if we were to add only lawyers,
Mhm.
1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years qualified lawyers, 90% of even these contacts turn up as job applications within half
Okay.
an hour of
Right.
accepting their ad request.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, what was
So
your process of writing books and coming up with what made you think that I should write a book? Or, what made you think of the topic of your first book that I should write the book on this topic?
Quite honestly, many publishers were asking me to write books on M&A and other corporate law subjects
Okay.
since 2015 or so.
Mhm.
And I would never get time being a part and parcel of big law firms ecosystem. So I didn't get too serious about it. However, in 2016, I thought contracts is like my second skin.
Mhm.
This is something that I don't have to work too hard.
Okay.
So I started writing 2 3 5 pages on a daily basis.
Mhm.
This was all, typewritten. It was not, nothing was cut and paste, nothing was like
Right.
lifted from anywhere,
Mhm.
so it was all manual writing in a way. So I
Mhm.
used to write 2 3 5 pages every day, and in few months time I had a decent amount of I would say written volume plus 4 or 5 templates, I think.
Mhm.
And then I said, let's publish it in the form of a book.
Mhm.
And I approached Mr. Anand Desai, the managing partner of DSK Legal, for a forward. The book was in a very primitive form,
Okay.
yet he was very kind enough to write a forward for it, and we managed to get it published as well. And the book was a sellout in 6 months. There were
Wow.
no copies available. So, one thing leads to another. So, a common friend introduced me to a new publisher who
Mhm.
were an ex big publishing house people.
Okay.
They were looking out for new titles, new authors,
Mhm.
and the rest is history, I would say.
Right. Beautiful. So you see a lot of comments. What kind of comments do you get on your books, and what is your procedure of actually going through the writing process of the book? Like you said, you take a few hours every single day to write the book. But what is your process? What time do you really choose? Like I'm trying to get to know more of you as an author.
Well, a good time for writing is, I think, late night for me after 9 p.m. or so, when all other, day-to-day life are taken care of. All the clients have been, serviced. You've had a good
Mm.
mix of family time. Post dinner, once you have, met, eaten together, and so on and so forth. Because I don't watch much of TV, because I need not get into the reasons.
Okay.
So that time, I think it's peaceful all around you, and it's a good time to think of the contemporary subjects, what's going on around the world. Like, I'm a business lawyer, so what's going on in the business circles, what's going on as far as M&A is concerned, as far as FDI ecosystem is concerned, how our government policy is shaping up, and so on. That's a time to reflect,
Right.
because mornings are busiest, thinking that these many queries received from clients. So during the daytime, when you're working, you have to service that.
Yeah.
So I think post dinner time is a reflective time, and I try to write a page or two or five, whatever the time permits,
Mhm.
and either publish it, in the form of a blog on LinkedIn or any website, or maybe a couple of projects in terms of books are also in pipeline. So this year may say one or two more titles coming up.
Okay, awesome. Great. Really looking forward to it, sir. So, you what you go through when you actually found a law firm? Like, what does it? Because I understand you're a first generation lawyer, and just getting and I think if you are not into the business family, if you're not really from a business family, you get to throw yourself in the field which you are not familiar with. So, how was it your process of getting to make your own law firm?
Well, today's situation is much different from what it used to be about 27 years back when I started practicing. It was like coming out of a purely academic ecosystem, like our law colleges,
Mhm.
to a law firm. Law firm culture was just, picking up at that time in India. It was like Alice in Wonderland. So you were wondering, this is not what I studied. This is not, what was taught to us. It was a whole lot of difference in the academic ecosystem that you had been a part and parcel of for 3 years or 5 years of your, law course, and getting into the practical world where you have to service the clients and so on and so forth. So it was very unknown territory. Today, the systems have changed. Today, I would say students get so much exposure. They have so much
Mhm.
of knowledge about law firms culture, and they get to intern at law firms as well. So they are much more aware of the processes
Mhm.
and the atmosphere in law firms. So
Right,
it's not as much alien as it used to be till
right.
about 15, 20 years back. Today, students are much more informed, knowledgeable, and conversant with the law firm's ecosystem. So I spent about 23 odd years with the big and mid-sized law firms in India,
Mhm.
and realized that a lot of clients are conservative on fee payment side.
Okay,
They do not want to pay premium for the brand name only.
okay,
They want to pay for the service, and they want to pay for the professional that they are engaging.
right.
So in the big law firms ecosystem, sometimes it happens. I have heard this complaint worldwide that sometimes clients who have small or mid-size transactions,
Mhm.
they do not get the best resources in big law firms,
Right,
yet they are charged very heftily because of the firm's brand name.
right.
right? So they are looking for law firms which are maybe notch below this top five league,
Mm-hmm.
which charge them reasonably, and they get access to the person they want to work with. A more, I would say, personal and customized service. So with
Right.
this philosophy, uh, I started Copcom Legal about 4 years back to
Mm-hmm.
service this segment of clientele. So we are not in competition with big law firms, nor do we intend to get there in few years' time. We are happy at our
Mm-hmm.
space, so to say. So we have a wonderful, excellent domestic and international network of like-minded law firms,
Mm-hmm.
big ones, small ones, mid-sized ones,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going on fairly wonderful, I would say.
Great, sir. So, who came up with the name of the firm and how many partners there are or founders there are? Initially, who founded it?
But yours truly was the founder, and the name was coined by me only.
Okay.
Uh, we did not name it Bhumesh Verma and Co. or anything
Right.
because I wanted it to be a truly professional firm. Partners may come, partners may go, as you hear in company law parlance.
Right.
But the firm remains there, and the name should be reflective of the practice that we are pursuing. So
Right.
the anyone who reads the name gets to know what we do. And in fact, people call it, they think it is abbreviation. Yes,
Okay.
sometimes people will say the corporate commercial legal. So we are very fine with that.
Right. Okay. So, what does your daily routine look like being in the law firm? And you said that you handle a lot of interns also. So, what does your daily routine look like?
Well, we start our day at 9 a.m. Trying to service whatever queries we have outstanding as of yesterday or what have been received overnight.
Mm-hmm.
The day goes in, and nowadays a lot of work is happening online as well, including internships. So the day, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is a sort of a mix of execution. If you were to put words in my mouth, maybe marketing, making people know about who we are, what we do, uh, posting inputs from our in-house team as well as interns on LinkedIn, other social media platforms, and so on and so forth. Discussion with interns, taking stock of the projects, research projects that they are undertaking. This is how a normal day goes, because physical meetings and conferences, etc., are a thing of the past for last 1 year or so. So daily, maybe if not daily, on alternate days, I have some web event or the other to address or participate in. So this is the typical, I would say, day in a corporate lawyer's life these days. And we try to close everything by, the physical ecosystem by 6 p.m. so that people can go back. And because there's a lot of problem in public transport and so on, restrictions and safeguards, and so we try to close by 6, and then whatever is outstanding, the team can handle that from their home. Some people are sort of permanently working from home. Some people are flexi. So this I think is a transition period that's going on. Let us see what emerges after, say, April 21. You are
Yes.
muted, Muskan.
Sorry. How have things been going on for you in the lockdown period, and what happened like in the lockdown period? Is there any transition or a change that you went through?
Uh, well, we had adopted some of these measures since the inception of the firm from April 2017 only,
Okay.
like online internships. I think we were among the first law firms, if not the first law firm in India to promote online internships, and people used to make fun of it in 2017.
Okay.
But having said that, a lot of students were receptive who
Mm-hmm.
did not wish to travel or could not afford to live in a different city and so on and so forth. So we provided them an opportunity to intern online since last 4 years. So internships we have always held online. In terms of the office infrastructure, we always promoted a flexi approach.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as I said, our emphasis is on productivity of people,
Right.
not on how many hours they spend in office or whether they are working from office or working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of our clients are multinational companies. They do not visit us. They do not come to our office. They, for meetings or checking us or anything. All the work happens virtually any which ways. All the meetings, all the calls, all the due diligence, all the documentation, discussions over documentation, negotiations. So I would say more than 50-60% of our work was virtual any which ways, even before the pandemic. After the pandemic, even domestic clients, you know, stopped coming to office or for meetings and discussions and so on and so forth. So we shifted almost 100% to online mode till about October, November, during the most severe phase of
Right.
lockdown and the pandemic for 7-8 months
Mm-hmm.
since March. Post November, things have started opening up. Now, physical meetings have started.
Right.
Even the office infrastructure, office staff, we are, trying to rekindle it, meetings and get-togethers and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully by April we should switch to the new normal with flexibility to some of the people who want such flexibility.
What about you, sir? Yourself, if we talk about it, how was lockdown for you personally, regarding personal growth and things have been like people are posting a lot on LinkedIn that things have changed for me personally. How have things changed for you or transitioned for you?
Well, we have to see opportunities even in adversities and have to make good of whatever the life offers us.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent more time during the lockdown with the family. I got more time to read, write, recapitulate, and rejuvenate some of my global connections.
Mm-hmm.
And by the grace of God, the work did not stop.
Mm-hmm.
Year on year, we have been seeing incremental growth in our business that continued despite the lockdown because of our focus on quality, timing, and pricing of our services. The
Mm-hmm. Right.
kind of goodwill that we have generated over the years by our delivery and our knowledge sharing that kept on. And in fact, this lockdown, again, adversities provide opportunities.
Right.
This worked as a blessing in disguise as far as our engagement with academia was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So I could take more workshops, more boot camps, and maybe 100 plus 1 or 2 hour webinars for law students.
Right.
Earlier, we used to have problem in counting the universities or colleges, law colleges I have lectured in.
Wow.
Now we have problem in counting where we haven't.
Right. Wow.
You name the university or law college and their administration or students body would have invited us for
Right.
a guest lecture or a workshop or so on. So many credit courses started online with several universities this year. And if all goes good,
Mm-hmm.
our credit courses may go international next month
Wow.
onwards.
Okay.
Lot of foreign bar councils and foreign universities are also inviting me.
Mm-hmm.
uh, the problem is just how to accommodate time. So we are trying
Mm-hmm.
to, mix up with our professional and academic engagements.
Wow. Okay, sir. Since we are approaching the end of the show right now, is there any books that you would like to suggest to the viewers here that you read or you would recommend?
Well, the books I would suggest may not be law books actually.
Hmm.
I
That's
always emphasize that, more than a lawyer or law student, you are a human being, so you should have a holistic view
right.
about your life.
Hmm.
Read everything, and particularly for corporate lawyers, you need to know the economy, you need to know the politics,
Hmm.
need to know law as well to a certain
Hmm.
extent.
Right.
But you have to be aware of the entire ecosystem. You
Hmm.
cannot be a lawyer in isolation.
Wow. Okay.
You're not, you're not an, you're not a frog in the well.
Right. Right.
You have to know the economy, you have to know your country, you have to know the rules and regulations, you have to know the world as well if you are doing international practice.
Hmm.
So read books on self-development, read books on business, read books on economy, read books on politics, read autobiography of good people.
Right.
I mean, there's a huge plethora of books that you can read. As whatever you like, if you want to be a media lawyer, read movies, books pertaining to movies,
Hmm.
pertaining to superstars, the film industry. Watch those TV shows.
Right.
You know, if you want to be, specialize in an environment, know the environment. Don't know only the environmental law. Know the environment.
Right.
If you
Okay.
want to be a sports lawyer,
Hmm.
know about the sports, know about the players,
Right.
know about the contracts that happen between lawyers, the sports persons and their clubs and so on and so forth.
Right.
So whichever area you want to practice in, you have to have the complete knowledge of that ecosystem. It is not a mechanical process, advising clients on contracts or litigation or environment or IPR or anything.
Right.
You should know the ecosystem. Do not uh, concentrate only on law part of it,
Hmm.
because otherwise you will be constrained only within your legal domain. You will not become a strategic partner. You will not become a business advisor.
Right. So, sir, actually, you have spent a lot of years in the industry and you have gone through a lot of firms. You have seen a lot of people working with you and, maybe against you. And you have seen a lot of lawyers. You've interacted with a lot of people. So, how has your experience been with your mentors, with other lawyers in the industry?
Well, you've said it very correctly, Muskan. I have spent more than half of my life in this profession,
Mhm.
and I have been privileged to work with some of the living legends of the legal fraternity during this period,
Mhm.
starting from Mr. Ajay Behal,
Mhm.
then Leela Goswami, Mr. Hagrid Khaitan, Mr. Pinto Khaitan, Mr. Paras Kuhad, and so on and so forth,
Mhm.
as well as so many stalwarts on the other side of the table,
Right.
including Mr. Anand Desai, Akshay Jitli, and so many, so it's been a privilege to learn
Mhm.
from the people I was working with or people who were sitting on the other side,
Mhm.
like not only from these Indian lawyers. I have been advising mostly multinational companies coming into India for their Indian adventures,
Mhm.
as well as Indian companies going abroad for technology transfers or joint ventures or investments
Mhm.
outside India. So it's been wonderful to have interactions with some of the best global lawyers and law firms as well.
Right.
Because of these wonderful interactions, whichever country I may go to, like I have advised clients from 50 plus countries
Mhm.
for their Indian operations, or when we are taking our Indian clients to venture out in those countries. So any country, any city you go to, you have some friends to, meet up and talk, or, all over the world, the legal community is so good.
Mm-hmm.
People are so friendly and helpful and supportive.
Right.
So this feels so good, having born with no legal family name and so on and so forth, having no contacts even till date, having made a, your some name and goodwill
Mm-hmm.
purely out of your own efforts.
Mm-hmm.
This feels so good.
Right. So, sir, were there any struggles or some hardship in your career years, because you have gone through a lot of years and going in different firms or maybe working for some other people? So, are there some struggles that you faced which have really affected you, or you would just like to recall them, some hardships that you had faced in your career life?
Not call them struggles or hardships. I would call them maybe learnings, because coming from a non-law family background, it was like, as I mentioned earlier, it was Alice in Wonderland. So maybe a first gen lawyer may take some time to get grip on things, on learnings, and on sorry, the flow
That's
went off. So a first gen lawyer may take more time
mm-hmm.
to learn few things that, someone coming from a legal family background has inherent knowledge, or having worked with their own law office since their
Mm-hmm.
student days and so on and so forth. So sometimes first gen lawyer may think that he's taking more time, or he may get impatient or frustrated about the speed of things.
Okay.
But eventually, if you are good, if you have it in you, if you are passionate, if you are serious, you reach where you want to be ultimately. So your ultimate destination should be the thing that you should keep in mind, rather than temporary aberrations or delays, or maybe other disturbances that
Right.
you may feel. The privileges that you are not getting in the initial phase of your career. Do not get disappointed. In all my student interactions, I say always believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who else will? And
Right.
always believe apna time aayega.
Right.
This national law school, non-national law school, metro cities, non-metro cities,
Mm-hmm.
English speaking background, non-English speaking background,
Mm-hmm.
good internships, not good internships,
Right.
or no internships, or PPOs, no PPOs, first break in Big Five, and no first break in Big Five.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, life is an equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets to the place he deserves,
Mm-hmm.
provided you are honest and faithful in your pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be true to yourself and to your craft.
Right.
Everything else follows.
Right. Exactly. I have been working in like I've done a two or three internships right now, not that many, but just that the what is difficult for me when I go to some firm is that to just get used to the fact that the way they might treat clients, like because firm takes a lot of cases, they take a lot of client counseling and everything, but then I had to get on call with a client who I still remember his name. He was so angry with the firm. He said that you have taken my money and you are not doing anything. You are just, if I used to tell him that I am not aware of your case, sir will come and give you the give you the answer back. And I used to tell them I'll give you 30 minutes to call back, and there was no response from my firms to firm from to them. It was difficult to actually get used to the idea that we are not treating people as people, we are treating people as clients, or just like somebody who's just giving us money to do a service. So I think for the longest time, being an intern, that was the thing I had to get past, that this is how we are supposed to treat clients, or the ethics of not following the ethics, the professional ethics of not following the general ethics. It was really
Right.
difficult.
I can relate
Mm-hmm.
with what you are saying. And this is what distinguishes, the bad apples from good people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not how you generate goodwill or good name for yourself. So this success achieved through these means is not, I would
Exactly.
say, permanent. You know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
if one were to talk in sports terminology,
Mm-hmm.
they say form is temporary. It may go up, it may go down, but class is permanent. So you
Right.
maintain a class about yourself, about your ethics, your ethical behavior,
Mm-hmm.
your philosophy. This is what will keep you in good stead throughout your career.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How else would you relate to someone like Bhunesh, who
Mm-hmm.
has no family background, who does not have a big five tag behind him anymore?
Mm-hmm.
People still calling him up, you know, from anywhere in the world. This
Actually.
is because me and the team, we have delivered, we have kept our, ethics intact. So
Right.
clients value that. Clients may not value the tag that you are bearing today,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but client will remember how you made them feel.
Right.
So in India, we have this, very excellent philosophy of, Mahatma Gandhi also said, client is your God.
Right.
You are not doing a favor to the client. Client is doing a favor to you by coming to you. If you believe in that philosophy, I need not say more.
Right. Exactly.
Client feels valued, client feels serviced,
Mm.
client feels you are treating him reasonably. He will never go away.
Right.
And the first thing, again, I may take a minute or so. This is the first thing that a lawyer, senior lawyer practicing in a district court in Delhi told me, with whom I interned for a few days
Mm-hmm.
immediately after passing out from law college,
Mm-hmm.
very few days. He said whether the client pays you rupees 50 for a assignment or is a client worth 50,000 rupees, you have to treat the client with same respect.
Right.
Whichever client comes to your office, you should offer him a cup of tea, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Every client should get the same amount of respect, irrespective of his transaction size, irrespective of his NAV, or irrespective of the fee that he's paying to you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So once you imbibe this philosophy in your mind,
Mm.
trust me, no client is going to feel offended, no client is going to leave you.
Right. Exactly. So, do you ever feel that, or do you feel, or where do you feel that you have made it? Was there any point in your life that you feel like, at last, when you're going at the end of the day, you're feeling that you have made it now, or you have reached the point in your career you really wanted to reach?
Well, that kind of sense is still not there. I think I'm a work in progress. I'm a very young and entrepreneurial lawyer. I just started 4 years back.
Right.
Before that, I was working with other big law firms.
Right.
But yes, I can get where you are coming from, in the sense that I feel good at the end of the day
Mm-hmm.
that I have been true to myself, true to my profession, true to my clients. That kind of satisfaction has always been there, as long as I have been putting in my best efforts. So
Mm-hmm.
that feeling is there. Having arrived is, I think, means different things to different people. But yes, in the morning it feels good when you have WhatsApp message or a LinkedIn message or an email coming from an unknown person.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, thank you for writing this book, or thank you for writing this article. This book helped me in cracking my interview,
Wow. Okay.
or this book helped me in servicing my client more efficiently than what I was doing a month or 2 months before.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of a feeling is unparalleled. Then maybe you can take it. that you feel that yes, you have done something
Right.
for the profession, something for the community, something for the fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of satisfaction, God is too kind. I
Mm-hmm.
get these kind of messages virtually every day on different platforms, even from unknown people. And unknown people spread your book's name or your article or
Mm-hmm.
your services on so many platforms, having been satisfied by our delivery.
Right. Awesome. So is there any that I was asking you if there's any point in life where you reach in your personal life, maybe monetary wise, maybe well, let's say about health or something, where you think that you've made it, that is like the high point in your life that you would want to reach one day, or somebody like a dream life for you.
Well, I think I have been living a dream throughout my professional career. You know, Coming from a middle class family, non-English speaking background, studying in Hindi medium
Wow.
school,
Mm-hmm.
who would have thought, I would go to UK on a scholarship sponsored by the UK government. I
Wow.
used to make fun that no one respects you in India, but the UK government recognizes you.
Right. Okay.
Right. So after the universities, you may not crack entrance exam, and you are teaching there.
All
So
right.
if you were to ask for instances, there are too many.
Right.
So every day is a blessing. As I keep saying, coming from a humble background, who could have thought, one would fly abroad, one would study abroad, one would
Right.
work abroad, one would write books, one would teach at national law schools or, other premier universities in India.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought government of India would invite you to be a guest faculty, with the National Productivity Council.
Mm-hmm.
People think that you can make people more productive. It
Mm-hmm.
means, right? So all this plus the client's appreciation, we don't have to market ourselves, we don't have to buy awards, we don't have to nominate ourselves anywhere. Your clients keep recommending you to more clients.
Right.
This is how our business grows.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not in any multi-level marketing MLM, but people are doing it for you
Right.
without any consideration. So this all definitely gives a high virtually every day. I'm thankful to God and my friends and my team and my colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
that all these collective efforts bear fruits, and this is useful for everyone. And not only from an individual perspective, but if you're good at your work, what are corporate lawyers doing? They are enhancing the image of India and India's professionals
Right.
across the world, attracting more talent and FDI and technology into India. If you
Right.
see it from a broader vision.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
there's a lot that you can do with your efforts,
Mm-hmm.
tangibles and intangibles, things that are known and unknown to you.
Mm-hmm.
So keep doing good, and good happens for everyone, for yourself, for your family, for your team,
Mm-hmm.
for the country, for everyone.
Right. So I, as much as you love law and as much as you love working in the day of what you're doing, is there anything else you would like to do if law was not a choice for you? What would you be doing now if law was not there?
Very hard to think, actually. Very
Okay.
particularly at this point of time,
Hmm.
because I have been very vocal in the sense that I was very participative throughout my life. So I used to deliver speeches. I used to
Okay.
moderate sessions, even from my school time. I
Mm-hmm.
used to sing, and I used to write poems and so on and so forth. So I think I could have been anything. I could have been an actor, I could have been a singer, I could have been a poet, I could have been a writer, I could have been a politician. I don't know what all I could have been.
Right. You actually are a writer, so you are an author. So what if like author and a lawyer? So it's pretty
And
amazing.
this is, somehow, it's very funny to think about it. What profession does every child take up as his first profession? Isn't it that of a teacher?
Right, right.
right? So I am sort of living my dream when I get invited to a law college.
Hmm.
I feel I've won. There is an excitement of coming back to college,
Right.
interacting with young, ignited, passionate minds,
Hmm.
and contributing something to the society. So that there is a very selfish interest in going to teaching.
Hmm.
You feel so happy, elated, and excited for
Right.
so many reasons.
Hmm. Oh,
So God has been kind, as I keep saying all the time. I have been living a dream life, I would say. My peers may have made 100 times more money than me, but I think I'm living a much happier and balanced life.
great, sir. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was really great having you. And since we've reached the end of the show, is there anything you'd like to say to the viewers watching today?
Just one thing: believe in yourself.
Right. Amazing, sir. So thank you so much for coming on the show, everybody, and we'll see you next time.